The cost of IT in business can be staggering. From hardware and software expenses to services like internet and phone, you don't need to spend a fortune on IT to succeed. If your organization spends more than $500 monthly on any service, or you're considering signing a long-term contract, IT Enabled can help you manage your technology and minimize your costs. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. IT Enabled, we're here to help.
Hi, I'm Tara Watson-Watkins, President and CEO of the Lufkin Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Connect podcast, connecting business to the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Blake Pollino with VP Media Group.
Welcome back to the show. This week, we're continuing to talk to Leadership Lufkin Class 41 alumni. We have Javier, Rubio, and Helena Barchenger, also alumni of this new class, and they share some of their insights. If you're on the fence, if you're a previous Lufkin, Leadership Lufkin alumni, this is a fun episode to listen to. May jog some fun memories for you, but let's get into that now.
We're thrilled to continue to be talking about Leadership Lufkin and the impact that it made on you and how your perspective has changed. So why don't we, we're thrilled to have y'all today. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourselves, give a little bit about your background history, and then we'll talk about the program.
Great. Sure. My name is Helena Barchenger. I am from Lufkin, born and raised. I work for Southside Bank as a commercial lender, and I joined Leadership Lufkin this year after being recommended by several colleagues of mine, and it was the best decision I could have made.
Nice.
Awesome. My name is Javier Rubio. I'm a lender with Commercial Bank of Texas. So I grew up in Nacogdoches, actually still reside there. Went to SFA, graduated with a finance degree, came to work for the bank. They're big on continuing education, so I went back to get my master's in accounting. I've done a lot of different roles within the bank, and here currently I'm a lender, and it's great. You know, Leadership Lufkin, I was thrilled about it. It's from the day one. My boss, Brian Sear, always mentioned it to me, and he's one of those where he doesn't tell you or make you do something. He puts it on the table and says, hey, I think this is a good idea. Yeah. And it's one of those where the timing has to be right on it as well, because I came in 2019. It was a crazy time. COVID hit. We had PPP loans. It was, the doors were shut. It was a crazy time, and it wasn't the right time. And I'm a big believer in timing, and the timing being right. And this year, I'm so glad I got to join in this class, and it's been the best decision I've had.
Y'all had a fantastic class.
We really did.
You really did. You had so many big personalities in there. And at first, when we were looking at it, we were like, saw a lot of really big voices in this, but y'all just balanced each other out so well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. We didn't know who was going to be in the class at first, and you start getting the list, or you start asking around, and then the names come up, and you're like, oh yeah, I know Helena, I know Marcus, I know, and Marcus was instrumental piece in helping this year, but so many of the classmates we already knew, and there were a lot of classmates that we knew of but didn't know personally. Right. Nolan Smith, see him everywhere and say hi, but we got to know him on a different level, and that's the best part of it.
Yeah, we really meshed well together just from the very beginning. It was like a big happy family.
That's nice.
I love that. I love that you said that about you guys looking at the personalities, and because we saw that in our class with our retreat. You've got these people who are all leaders in their own respective fields and industries. And I remember one of the first things we did this leadership game where there was a circle, and like everybody had a string attached to this metal ring, and we had to pick it up and put it on top of a bottle or something. And our group of it was just very dynamic personalities. Everyone in our group doing it was a very take charge leadership kind of person, and it did not work. We could not do it. And finally I was like, why don't we just everybody except like 3 people drop your strings and just let everybody, and that was our problem. Like everybody else was trying to take the lead, and it's such a cool learning experience to be around all these other people who are like you in a lot of ways, but also very different than you in a lot of ways.
It was, a lot of those activities, eye-opening, like you said on that one in particular. A lot of the top A personalities where we're all, leaders, both in the workplace, at home, spiritually, and we come together and we all get along. But it's nice to see that we all have great ideas, but sometimes we have to step back and listen and go with the best idea.
That's
so
right.
you're absolutely right.
I was thinking about timing Blake with you because you were supposed to be in the class before.
I was.
And then he tested positive for COVID the morning that
wow.
they
morning of the
left
retreat.
Wow.
Yes.
for the retreat. And so I was like, you have to
Sure.
go to the retreat.
Yeah.
So he had to defer a year. And you just think about the timing of the people that
I know.
you
I
wouldn't
love
have
it.
been with
I
on
love
that
it.
class. So
I say I'm actually class 39 and a half. So I was 40. I went to the meet and greet like that night for 39, met everybody, and but I love it. I wouldn't have changed how it was, but yeah, I got to see a little bit of both sides. So
that's funny.
I'd love to know, has anything changed for you after having gone through Leadership Lufkin about the way that you do things, about the way that you lead, about the way that you work? Has anything changed for you since doing the program?
I think it's important to notice that everyone has different leadership styles, and that was something we learned at camp. And just learning how to navigate everybody's different personalities and how they lead and how they communicate was a huge one, and it's something I'm more aware of now since going through it.
I love that.
Absolutely. Hit it right on the head right there. People lead differently, and sometimes getting to know someone and their leadership traits and what works best for them. We have employees, we have coworkers, we have bosses that we all have to maybe change our approach a little bit. And I think some of the sessions we attended this throughout the Leadership Lufkin program really helped us see that. So I think it was definitely
Sometimes you
instrumental.
just need to be reminded
Right.
that it's not always about you.
Right.
We get caught up so much about how can I make me happy?
Right.
How can I serve me?
Yes.
And I think sometimes we have to just remember to step back and
Yes.
say, okay, it's not about me. It's about us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how can we do this
Yes.
better
Absolutely.
as a community?
And there's
So
more than one way to accomplish
That's
goals.
Yes.
exactly right.
Yes.
that's exactly right. So, you built this incredible network. And what are y'all doing to stay connected? Do you still do stuff together? Do you get together?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We built up a great networking within amongst our group. Now, the easy thing would be get together for lunch, dinner, drinks after work, and definitely still looking to do those things. But we want to stay engaged. We want to stay plugged in. We want to, if one of our classmates is on a board and they're hosting an event, hey, we're going to be the first ones to sign up and help them out because we're all involved and we want the same in return. So staying connected, staying engaged with our fellow classmates by virtue of being there for them. In whatever it is that they need, I think is key.
Yeah,
That's great.
we kind of have this built-in circle of just friends and people we can lean on now. We can send a message, say, hey, we're hosting this event. Who can come help? And you already have, 5, 10 people to show up
That's
and
right.
help. So that's nice.
That's nice.
Absolutely.
The network part of it is incredible. It's just we still do with ours. It's like, especially to what you said, one of us will be on a board somewhere and say, hey, we need volunteers for this, and we can almost guarantee that our Leadership Lufkin friends are gonna show up. And
Yeah, absolutely. The support there is just amazing.
I love that.
So I want to know, what was your favorite day of the whole year?
I think the one that stuck with me the most, and it was one of our first sessions, was the one where we toured several different nonprofits around Lufkin. I just learned so much about how unique our community is in that we value giving back and really uplifting people who need help. And I knew that about our community, but it was really nice to see it firsthand and also to see different ways that I can get engaged too.
Absolutely. No, definitely. That was definitely meaningful. The one that stuck out to me is the retreat.
Oh yeah.
Early on, you have connections, you have relationships with some of the people, but you get to know them on a different level.
Yeah.
Because you might work with them or see them at a work event, and you spend that much time together and you do those activities with each other that really gets some insight on them on a personal level. And that to me was great. I think that built the foundation for our group to really come together and really stay connected throughout the program.
So let's talk about Austin, because people always say, so we do a 3-day retreat in Austin, and we go to the Capitol. We have all these different speakers. Everybody always says, I wish Austin could happen earlier during the year because you bond so much on that. But tell me about what your experience in Austin was. What did you enjoy about it? What did you not enjoy about it? Things like that.
I'm 100% on board with that. The Austin trip was amazing. Again, it was another event or another session that we got to spend time with each other to kind of cement our relationships and get to know each other. On the bus ride, we kind of just talk amongst ourselves or kind of hop back and forth from seats, just talking to different people, to the speakers. There were great speakers. We got to see the legislative part of it and what that means for our communities, because we see our representatives and what they're doing for us. But until you're there on the Capitol and you see them firsthand, it'd be like me coming to the chamber and seeing, shadowing you for a day and seeing, wow, Tara does, you don't understand everything that goes on until you're actually there at their workplace. And same thing with the Austin trip. It was eye-opening. It was a great time. And I'm with you. If we could have done that sooner, because the retreat was awesome, and the Austin trip, I think, really cemented that.
Yeah.
And it was great overall.
Yeah, it was a really great learning experience, and definitely encouraged us and taught us how we could get involved on a state level, which is not something many people think about,
Right.
or feel like they have the confidence to do.
That's right.
But after the trip, it was very eye-opening.
I always love the fact that we get to visit with all these different offices that are always looking for board members. And so you get this little taste of what happens in Austin and how you could give back. And then you have an opportunity to submit your application to be on a state board.
Right.
And so I love that we do that. We encourage our investors and the public to come back every year, whether you're in Leadership Lufkin or not. You can come and be a part of the whole trip with us. And who knows, maybe one of these days we'll do a fly-in to DC. I think that would be a fun thing to do.
I'd love
There's
to
a lot of
join, for
chambers that
sure.
do that.
Wow.
So maybe one of these days, maybe within the next 5 years, we'll do a DC fly-in.
For sure.
Absolutely. And it was really eye-opening to see that day we were at the Capitol, to see all the past Leadership Lufkin alumni, to see so many people from our communities there to support us and kind of their experience throughout it, and they wanted to be there for us, and I think that was huge.
Yeah.
It's my biggest, my least favorite moment of my entire year is that I did not get to go to the Austin trip as an alumni with you guys. We had so many things going on. I was calling people, hey, can we move this meeting? Or I could not make it happen, because that was one of my favorite parts of the networking, because when we were there, previous classes attended, and it was so well attended, and we got to network with all of the alumni, and I think I may have told this story on the podcast before.
It's a great story.
We were at the piano bar. Did you guys go to the piano bar?
Did.
It's a tradition.
Absolutely.
And it was a fantastic time. We had a blast, and I got to connect with a previous alumni member there and talk about our business and their business. And they connected us with one of our now largest clients that we have. And that was just a 100% straight connection from the networking that was available through Leadership Lufkin and the alumni. Awesome. And I love telling that story, because that's just like it's a lot of times it's a little, there's some intangible parts of it, right? Where it's like, I met these people and it led to this and to this, but that was just like a direct connection of the networking that you're able to achieve even within your own group is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even since the class is finished, we talk about the support, but also people want to help each other out, right? So when someone's looking for a house, we have realtors in our group that we recommend them to. If someone's looking for a loan, we have bankers that they recommend us to. So it's countless opportunities.
Always.
It's things that you wouldn't necessarily see, and maybe to a lot bigger scale on yours, it wouldn't have happened had you not been in Leadership Lufkin to make that connection there.
Right.
So I think that's just, it speaks for itself.
It does. It grows your network exponentially because of everybody that and even, it may not be now, but it may be down the road, but even some of the connections, you have somebody in your group, in your circle that does that. So you talked about the bus ride to Austin being that was a fun part of it. Like at first I was like, oh my God, that's gonna take forever. But on the way back from Austin, I sat next to Zach, who's in our class, he's over part of the Texas forestry for Texas A&M here in the area. And so we're going through the state forest there. And I was just picking his brain about trees for like 2 hours. He was probably so ready to get off that bus when I was done. But like, I learned so much about trees and stuff that I had
That's
never,
really funny.
had never known before. It was something ridiculous. It was about woodpeckers. It's like when they're pecking on these trees, some of them are invasive and they're going for sap most of the time. They're not actually digging bugs out of the bark. And the same thing when we went to the zoo. Jennifer Stover was in our class, and she's been amazing. I think I've talked about it in the last podcast.
Grew up at the zoo.
Literally grew up at the zoo. Super cool. We need to have her on the podcast. She's such an interesting person. But she took our class, because she was in our class. So she took us around and gave us like a behind the scenes tour of the zoo when we were there. And it was just like
which led to you now serving on the zoo board.
And that was my big, like, I think to connect it to Leading Edge, another program that the Chamber offers here, I wrote down, I really wanted to be at the board on the board of the zoo. I love the zoo, and that connected me to that, which was another amazing connection. But I was so interesting to my kids for like the next 3 or 4 zoo visits, because like I knew so much stuff to tell them about, and I was like, I was the man. Like I knew everything. I was like, hey, this jaguar escaped one time. Like I had all of the details. Like a really cool one. I don't know if I ever shared this on the podcast, but with the zoo, if there's ever a freeze, so certain animals can just stay where they are. Like the alligators, they'll just let them chill. They'll poke their head up through the water. If it freezes, they're totally fine. But the flamingos don't do great in that. So for a long time, the policy was they would take the flamingos and put them in the women's bathroom. And they would stay warm in there, and they would just keep them
with all the mirrors. Back and forth.
And then they would go clean it and do all that after they were done. So but my kids were just like endlessly fascinated at our next trip, because I knew everything. I had all of it. But just speaks to the networks that you guys create with this, and the connections that you can make. So
absolutely.
What are different leadership qualities that you found out about yourself that you've now been able to implement in your everyday jobs or your home life, things like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so many great sessions, so many great speakers, different types of leaders. I think the one that stuck out to me was we had a speaker from eTech, and she gave us an equation, and she mentioned, which we all know this, right? So we're all leaders. We all know that to be a great leader, you have to be trusted. But when you break it down into an equation, I think that really stuck with me. And I've memorized the equation because I went home and taught it to my family. I went back to work and went over it with coworkers and employees. But to be able to be trusted, you have to have credibility, reliability, intimacy, and then all those things added up over what was the last thing? It was over your sustainability. So are you credible? Do people, if someone comes in for a loan, do I know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So we check that box. Am I reliable? If I say I'm going to be there, if I say I'm going to do that task, do I get it done? And then intimacy. Do I make other people feel safe? Because we all, at the end of the day, want to feel safe, no matter if it's a loan you're going through, or if it's at home, if it's schoolwork, no matter what it is, you want to feel safe. And then all that added together over the sustainability, is it in my best interest, or am I looking out at over my best interest or over theirs? Yeah. Because that's key right there, because I can have all those qualities, but if I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, then people aren't going to trust me. Yes. So I've really taken that to heart, and I've really implemented that both personally and at the workplace, and I think that's key.
That's great. How about you, Helena?
I think I want to just mirror what Javier was saying. It was really great to be able to start each session with a different speaker.
Good.
Come in and sort of give us some foundational pieces of leadership, and then we go out and we see how it works within our community. Each place we go to, I mean, we witnessed some incredible leaders from the nonprofits to the larger industries in Lufkin, and it was nice to be able to really hear about it and then see it at the same time.
Nice. I'm so glad to know that, because we for so many years did not do anything with leadership. We just put you on a drive-by tour of Angelina County, of Lufkin. And I don't really know why we did that. And so this was something that we actually started with your class, was to bring in a leadership speaker, and that they were given like a topic. And then we tried to make sure that every single place you went that day all tied in together with that same word and that same topic. And so I'm glad to know it worked.
Absolutely.
Nice. Good.
Absolutely. That's I just assumed it had been like that
Nope, we
because
hadn't
it
done it
worked
for
so
years.
it worked so well
It
and it
did.
came together so well. And I
Good.
was like, man, this is really well put together.
Well, it needs to be. I mean, you're going through Leadership Lufkin. You don't just need to know about what happens in the community. You need to have some leadership put back in you.
Yeah.
Everybody, no matter what position you're in, needs to be fed. And it's something that I try to make sure that my team gets to go and be fed at different conferences and that they come away feeling rejuvenated and
Yes.
revived. And I want, that was the thing. I wanted to make sure that you felt like that you hadn't just given up 8 hours of your day, that you were also fed during this process so that you could go back and make a difference. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
Fantastic.
We always left each day with something to think about as we
Nice.
were going home, and how we wanted to apply that
Absolutely.
to our
Good.
lives.
good. Success.
It was awesome. I can't tell you enough how much we enjoyed it.
Good. I'm so
and,
glad.
and how much we got out of it. So I mean, we're blessed to be a part of it, to encourage others,
Yeah.
future participants to really join, because we know firsthand what opportunities it can bring, both on all three phases, and it's just amazing.
That's great. Well, thank y'all for being here today.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you guys
Appreciate
for
you
having
coming
us.
and getting to chat
Definitely.
and hear y'all's story, and thank y'all for just spending some time with us this morning. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. We truly appreciate all of your support. And if you'll do us a favor, if you'll subscribe wherever you're listening, and if you want to watch a video version of this podcast, it's available on the Chamber YouTube page and on the Chamber Facebook page. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.